Hello everybody, welcome again. We're looking at the judiciary, third lesson. So far we've looked at some of the key concepts. These are in purple, okay? And if you're not sure, make sure you go back over these so you understand the wordings. We looked at the composition, we looked at the appointments process. So that takes us down to the areas in red. The actual role of the Supreme Court and how it interacts obviously with the legislature and the executive, that's going to be our main focus. So in terms of lessons, this is where we're at. Lesson 3, the role of the Supreme Court in the UK political system, okay, with some task links to that. We don't have a lesson this Friday, but we will have next Tuesday. I might switch this around depending on how the essays have gone and what I need to talk to you about. For this lesson, if you look down here in the reading, these 3 articles in green are the ones that are going to be helpful for you today. Okay, it's retrieval time. So, what I want you to do, please, aim for 4 sentences describing what parliamentary sovereignty is. To help you along the way, use this song. Samantha Barks from Les Mis, On My Own. Beautiful. 3 minutes. Pause your video now. Okay, let's see how you got on. Parliamentary sovereignty, a key principle that underpins the part of the written but uncodified constitution. Crucially, defines the ultimate power that resides within Parliament. And therefore, any statute law that is passed defines the extent to which government can actually act in terms of its legal authority, the rights that are enjoyed by citizens, how far devolved bodies can act. And most crucially, it contrasts the United States, where the Constitution is sovereign and the Congress or the President can only act within the restrictions of the Constitution. So really, Parliament defines its own actions. Now that's really, really important when we start to look at the Supreme Court today and where its role lies in regards to the legislature and the executive. Hope you did well in that. If not, pick out the pieces from what we have here. So we're focusing today on the Supreme Court role and the importance of its interactions with the legislature and the executive. That's what we're going to try and achieve. To do that, we have to understand the context in which this question could be asked. The Supreme Court is too big an influence in the policy process. That certainly has come to pass in more recent times with Brexit. As you can see here in some of the headlines from the Daily Mail and the Daily Express, these are reactions to judicial decisions regarding Brexit and how can know the concerns there about who's actually running them. The classic question of, are unelected judges having too much power? Or is it the case that actually they're providing an effective check on an executive which tries to do what it wants? That's where this question lies, and that's what we're going to be looking at. So to put that in context, as we know, the UK political system is built on the principle of parliamentary sovereignty. It suggests that the government should be able to use the power if they have a parliamentary majority and hold the confidence of Parliament to do what they wish. Theresa May's government was a classic example of this. Lacking majority, finding it difficult to maintain the confidence of Parliament, and as a result of this, their power was restricted, and the Supreme Court certainly was able to limit the power of the executive. However, the emergence of the Supreme Court since its creation in 2009 suggested a bit more of a formal separation of powers. The Supreme Court has become much more prominent. As we know from our reading of Le Sueur, it can now challenge the executive in a whole range of different areas, with Tom suggesting it's the most effective means of scrutinising the legality of the government's decision-making process. In fact, if you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see the article more recently about a potential legal challenge regarding the lockdown conditions, showing that perhaps now it's seen by many as a means by which they can challenge the executive much more effectively. So we need to read. These are the 3 areas of articles that we need to use. First one's Macnaughton's. Okay, looks like this. And within that particular article, what I want you to do is look for the arguments that the judgments, they should have power over policy, as against they shouldn't be able to challenge parliamentary sovereignty. And where the actual limits lie in terms of judicial power in the UK. That's the value of that article. It should take you about half an hour to do. So get on with that now. Okay. You've looked at Macnaughton. Now we're going to look at this question. The Supreme Court has too big an influence in the policy process. Analyse and evaluate. And what we're going to try and do is construct this particular paragraph. You're going to have a go at it, send it to me by next week, and we'll see if we're moving along in the right direction. See if your construction is correct, see if your understanding is in the right place. So the point we'll be saying in favor of this statement is that the Supreme Court has grown its scope of influence. That's an assertion which suggests that it is too influential. Why would that be the case? Well, there's a whole range of different ways it can influence policy decisions based on judicial review, Human Rights Act, EU law, devolution. You've got lots of those examples now, so you can really illustrate this. To help, if you look here in Sharapo's article, has it changed anything? And read on the second page, change with a more raised political and public profile. And down here with the case studies, you've got some excellent examples here to support what you're saying about the Supreme Court growing in its scope of influence. So we're talking about 150 words as we go through this bit, maybe a bit longer. Looking at the analysis, so essentially the level of influence has developed over a range of times because of the range of disputes. However, your evaluation has to be around this area. Is this too much, therefore impinging upon parliamentary sovereignty? Or is it just reflective of how we've changed our political system over time, new constitutional reality, and in fact it's appropriate? So that's your challenge for next week, okay? You've read McNaughton, now it's your job to try and come up with 150 to 200 words on the growth of scope paragraph, okay? Email them to me, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.